Have you ever wondered why some relationships leave you feeling empty, drained, and questioning your own worth? It's a painful question, but deep inside, you already know the answer. When someone is truly for you, love feels like freedom, not a cage. It feels like light, not darkness. Yet when a man is using a woman, everything feels heavy, confusing, and unfair. You deserve to hear this today. Love should never feel like being used. It should never feel like you are giving your all while receiving nothing but silence in return. And yet, so many women stay trapped in these situations, not because they are weak, but because the heart is powerful, because hope is blinding, and because deep down, you want to believe in the good you once saw in him. But here's the truth. Psychology teaches us. When your emotions are deeply invested, your mind often refuses to see reality. You begin to excuse his behavior. You start to tell yourself stories. He's just busy. He'll change. He loves me, but he struggles to show it. And while your heart clings to hope, your soul feels the weight of being undervalued. That's why awareness is everything. That's why this message matters. Because today is not about anger. It's not about revenge. It's about clarity, strength, and self-respect. It's about giving you the courage to look at the truth and say, if this is not love, I will no longer allow myself to be used. So I want you to stay with me until the very end of this message. Because what you'll hear is not just a list of red flags, it is a mirror that reflects your value back to you, a mirror that shows you what genuine love looks like compared to empty promises. And if you choose to stay till the final word, you'll walk away with something far more valuable than just knowledge. You will walk away with strength, with clarity, and with the ability to protect your heart from ever being misused again. Think of this as a reward for yourself, not a gift from me, but a gift from you to you, the gift of finally understanding what you deserve and refusing to settle for less. Now let's step into the reality that so many ignore. When a man is using a woman, there are always patterns. There are always cracks in his words, his actions, and his behavior. Psychology shows us that people reveal their intentions not through what they say, but through what they repeat. Actions speak louder than promises, and repetition speaks louder than apologies. And here's the hard truth. A man who is using you will never give you consistent love, because his goal is not your happiness, it is his convenience. He will show up when it benefits him. He will give just enough to keep you around, but never enough to build something real. He will leave you questioning your worth while he enjoys the benefits of your effort, your loyalty, and your care. Does that sound familiar? If it does, don't feel ashamed. Don't feel guilty. You are not weak for falling for love. You are human. Your capacity to give is not your flaw. It is your strength. But here's where the motivation lies. That same strength that made you love deeply can also help you walk away boldly. Think of this. Every second you spend being used is a second stolen from the life you could be building with peace, joy, and someone who truly values you. You don't lose when you let go of a man who uses you. You win because you gain back your freedom, your confidence, and your energy. And I need you to hold this truth. You are not hard to love. You are not asking for too much. You are simply asking for honesty, respect, and care, the very foundation of any real relationship. If someone cannot give you that, it is not because you are unworthy. It is because they are unwilling. And when someone is unwilling, your power lies not in begging them to change, but in standing tall and refusing to accept less. Many people remain silent when they feel used. They stay because they fear loneliness, or because they believe no one else will understand them the way he does. But psychology proves something powerful. Human beings adapt. You can adapt to new beginnings. You can adapt to healing. You can adapt to growth. And once you step away from what is breaking you, you discover that solitude is not empty. It is full of peace. And peace will always be better than chaos disguised as love. So let me be clear. This message is not about hating men. It is not about bitterness. It is about self-awareness. It is about equipping you with the knowledge to protect your heart and recognize when someone is not valuing you. Because a woman who knows her worth is unstoppable. A woman who sees through manipulation becomes untouchable. By the end of this journey, you will know exactly how to identify when a man is using you. You will see the signs, not with a blind heart, but with clear eyes. And once you see, you cannot unsee. Once you recognize, you cannot go back to pretending. So here's the promise. If you choose to listen all the way through, You will no longer be the same person who pressed play at the start. You will be wiser, stronger, and more certain of what you deserve. That is your reward. That is your power. Stay with me, and let's walk through the truth together. Because the truth may sting, but it also sets you free. One of the greatest battles you will ever face in life is not against other people, it is against the lies you tell yourself. Deep inside, the heart whispers when something feels wrong, your mind senses when something is off. Yet, because of hope, fear, or longing, many choose to silence that inner voice. They stay blind even when the truth is right in front of them. That is why awareness is everything. Awareness is the light that exposes the darkness. When you are unaware, you live on illusions. You build castles in the sky and wonder why they keep falling apart. You forgive the same wounds over and over, believing it is love. You sacrifice your own peace, thinking it is loyalty. But when awareness rises, the fog begins to lift. You finally see the difference between love and exploitation, between care and control, between partnership and dependency. Psychology tells us that the human brain clings to patterns. Once it attaches to someone, it searches for reasons to justify keeping them close, even when they cause pain. That is why so many remain in harmful relationships. They rewrite stories in their minds to protect their emotions from breaking. But awareness shatters that cycle. Awareness removes the false stories and replaces them with undeniable clarity. You see, it is not enough to feel that something is wrong. You must know. And once you know, you cannot go back to ignorance. That knowledge becomes a shield, protecting you from manipulation, excuses, and empty promises. The truth is, a man who is using a woman will not change because she loves harder. He will not change because she waits longer. He will not change because she gives more. Love does not transform a user. Awareness does. Only when you recognize his true intentions can you step away, reclaim your strength, and refuse to be treated as less than you are. But awareness is not only about him, it is also about you. It is about looking at yourself honestly and asking, why have I allowed this? What fear is keeping me here? What belief makes me think I cannot walk away? This self-examination is not weakness, it is courage. Because the moment you identify the chains within yourself, you gain the power to break them. Understand this, people often accept the love they think they deserve. If deep inside you feel unworthy, you will accept crumbs and call it a meal. If you believe you cannot do better, you will settle for less and call it loyalty. That is why awareness of your own worth is just as critical as awareness of his behavior. When you know your value, you stop begging for the bare minimum. You stop excusing inconsistency. You stop confusing pain with passion. Awareness also protects your future. Without it, you repeat the same lessons with different faces. You attract the same wounds in new relationships because you never face the truth of the old ones. But once you open your eyes, once you choose clarity, you will never fall for the same tricks again. You will see the patterns before they take root. You will recognize the signs without needing to be hurt twice. And here is the beautiful part. Awareness brings freedom. It may hurt at first, like light piercing through eyes used to darkness, but that pain is temporary. Once you adjust, you see clearly. You see possibilities you never noticed before. You see the path that leads to peace, to joy, to real love. Freedom is not in holding on to someone who drains you. Freedom is in letting go and choosing yourself. This is why awareness is the foundation of strength. A strong heart is not one that endures endless pain. A strong heart is one that refuses to be blind any longer. It chooses truth, even when truth hurts. It chooses clarity, even when clarity breaks illusions. Because illusions may feel comfortable, but they never last. Only the truth builds something unshakable. Many fear awareness because it forces them to confront reality. But running from truth only extends suffering. Facing truth shortens it. When you confront what is real, you give yourself the power to change it. Without awareness, you remain a prisoner of someone else's control. With awareness, you become the master of your own choices. So let this sink in. The first step toward protecting yourself from being used is not waiting for someone else to change. It is opening your eyes. It is seeing his actions for what they are, not for what you wish they were. It is listening to your inner voice that has been whispering all along. And once you see, once you hear, once you recognize, you hold all the power. Power to say no. Power to walk away. Power to create a life where love is not about survival, but about growth. That is the true reward of awareness. It does not just tell you who he is. It reminds you of who you are, someone valuable, someone worthy, someone who does not need to beg for love, because real love does not need to be begged for. Awareness is your turning point. It is the invisible line between who you were and who you are becoming. Once you cross it, you never go back. And that is when life begins to change. Not when he decides to love you differently, but when you decide to love yourself enough to stop accepting less. The first and most revealing sign of a man who is only using a woman is this: he constantly takes, but rarely, if ever, gives back. At first, it might appear small. He accepts your time, your care, your energy, but when it comes to returning even a fraction of what you offer, there is silence. Over time, this silence grows heavier, and you realize the balance has never been equal. Every healthy bond thrives on mutual exchange. Two people pour into each other, creating a flow of respect, support, and appreciation. But when someone is using you, that flow runs only one way. Your effort becomes his fuel, while his effort is nowhere to be found. The relationship becomes lopsided, and you begin to feel like you are carrying the weight of two people while standing on your own. Psychology makes this pattern clear. People reveal their priorities by where they invest their energy. A man who values you will invest time, thought, and sacrifice. A man who uses you will invest the bare minimum required to keep you around and nothing more. This imbalance leaves you questioning yourself. Am I asking for too much? Am I difficult to please? But the truth is simple. You are not asking for too much. He is giving far too little. Think about it. Love is not about grand gestures or endless gifts. It is about reciprocity. If you listen to his struggles, but he never listens to yours, that is taking. If you comfort him when he is low, but he disappears when you are hurting, that is taking. If you make sacrifices for his dreams, but he shows no interest in yours, that is taking. One-sided giving is not love. It is a transaction where only one person profits. This kind of behavior drains you slowly. At first, you may ignore it, believing that love requires patience. But as days turn into months, the emptiness grows. You wake up tired, not from life itself, but from constantly being the one who holds everything together while he only benefits. That exhaustion is not normal. It is the consequence of being used. Many women blame themselves in these moments. They believe they are not enough, or that if they just give more, he will eventually change. But psychology shows us that users rarely change when they are rewarded for their behavior. If he continues to receive without effort, he learns that he never has to contribute. And why would he? If you give endlessly, he has no reason to grow. Recognizing this pattern is not about becoming bitter. It is about reclaiming balance. You deserve someone who meets you where you are. Someone who matches your energy, not drains it. Someone who contributes to your life instead of constantly withdrawing from it. Because love is not about being emptied, it is about being filled. Here is the powerful truth. When a man truly loves, giving is natural. He does not keep score. He does not hesitate. He does not see your effort as something to exploit. Instead, he sees your effort as a reason to give even more. He invests, he builds, he lifts, because that is what real partnership looks like. Ask yourself honestly, when you look at the connection you are in, do you feel replenished or do you feel depleted? Do you see consistency in his actions, or do you see patterns of taking that never seem to stop? Your answer will tell you more than his words ever could. Words can be sweet, but actions never lie. Some will argue, but he shows me love in his own way. But here is the truth. If his way always benefits him and leaves you empty, that is not love, that is convenience. If his way constantly demands your sacrifice but never offers his, that is not devotion, that is usage. Do not let empty excuses blind you to the reality of your own exhaustion. And this is where your strength must rise, because staying in a relationship where you are the only giver does not prove your love, it proves your tolerance for neglect. And the longer you tolerate it, the more it damages your spirit. You begin to doubt your own worth, forgetting that you were never meant to live in a cycle of giving without receiving. Remember this, you cannot pour endlessly into someone who never pours into you. Eventually, your cup runs dry, and when that happens, resentment replaces love, frustration replaces peace, and emptiness replaces joy. Protecting your heart means recognizing this imbalance early, before it robs you of years you can never get back. So if you notice a man always taking but never giving, pause. Do not explain it away. Do not tell yourself that someday he will change. Look at the evidence. Does he make an effort to understand your needs? Does he sacrifice his comfort for your well-being? Does he contribute to your growth, your peace, your happiness? If the answer is no, then you are not being loved. You are being used. And here lies your power. You have the ability to stop the cycle. You do not need to wait for him to suddenly transform. You can decide today that your worth demands more. You can decide today that love without balance is not love at all. You can decide today that your life will no longer be defined by one-sided sacrifice. Because the truth is simple. When someone values you, they give. Not because they have to, but because they want to. And if he doesn't want to, then you are not truly with a partner. You are with someone who benefits from your presence while offering nothing in return. Never forget, you are not created to be a source of endless supply for someone who only takes. You are meant to be cherished, respected, and uplifted. And if he cannot give you that, then the most powerful choice you can make is to stop pouring yourself into empty hands. Commitment is more than a word. It is a promise, a choice, a willingness to invest in someone's life fully and consistently. When a man avoids commitment, it speaks louder than any excuse he can give. It is not about timing or circumstances. It is about his priorities, his readiness, and his respect for you. A man who truly values a woman does not hesitate to define his intentions. He does not keep love in limbo or live in the shadows of uncertainty. Many women mistake hesitation for fear, for past baggage, or for caution. They hope that if they are patient, he will eventually open up, eventually declare his love, eventually commit. But psychology tells us that humans act according to their priorities. If someone consistently avoids making a clear choice, it is not because he does not want to, it is because he is unwilling to invest. Avoidance is a pattern, not a temporary phase. When a man avoids commitment, he often uses words to create illusions. He may say, "I care about you," or "I want to see where this goes," but his actions reveal the truth. Words can comfort temporarily, but actions are permanent. If he does not make time for your life to intersect with his fully, if he keeps you waiting without clarity, you are left holding hope instead of certainty. And hope, when it is built on someone else's hesitation, slowly erodes self-confidence and peace. Avoidance of commitment also manipulates emotions. It keeps you in a state of constant uncertainty, always questioning, always seeking approval, always trying to earn something that should be freely given. This is not love. This is control disguised as affection. A person who truly wants to be with you will not make you doubt your place in their life. They will act consistently, proudly, and openly. Think about the psychology of attachment. Humans need stability to thrive emotionally. We are wired to seek security, consistency, and predictability in our closest relationships. When someone avoids commitment, they create chaos in your emotional system. Your brain and heart begin to operate on a roller coaster. Hope one moment, disappointment the next. Over time, this unpredictability drains mental energy, making it difficult to trust not only them, but yourself. Avoidance also affects self-worth. If you're with someone who refuses to commit, you may start questioning your value. Am I not enough? Is there something wrong with me? These thoughts are traps. They are not reflections of your worth. They are reflections of his unwillingness. A man who values you will not make you question yourself. He will make you feel seen, secure, and certain. Avoidance is not about you. It is about his inability to act with integrity. Many women stay in relationships where commitment is absent because they fear losing what they have, even if it is not enough. They fear loneliness, fear judgment, or fear starting over. But avoiding the truth only prolongs pain. Accepting uncertainty as a substitute for commitment teaches the heart to settle for less than it deserves. And every day you settle, you move further from the love you truly need and the respect you deserve. True commitment is simple. It does not require grand gestures or constant words. It requires clarity, presence, and consistent actions that reinforce love. When someone commits, they do not leave room for doubt. They integrate your life into theirs, not partially, but fully. They plan for you, protect you, and create space for your growth alongside theirs. Avoidance, in contrast, isolates you, keeps you questioning, and prevents the relationship from becoming a source of joy and stability. It is important to recognize the subtle signs of avoidance. He may delay introducing you to important people in his life. He may refuse to make plans for the future or constantly change the nature of your relationship. He may disappear during difficult times or shift the responsibility for defining the connection onto you. These are not minor flaws. They are patterns that reveal his true intentions. Commitment is not about possession, it is about care. When a man avoids it, he is not valuing your presence. He is not honoring your investment of time, love, and energy. Instead, he keeps the relationship incomplete, leaving you to navigate the uncertainty alone. And that is exhausting. You deserve a love that brings relief, not tension, that affirms your worth, not questions it. Awareness of commitment patterns empowers you. Once you see the avoidance clearly, you no longer rationalize it. You no longer make excuses. You no longer compromise your self-respect for the hope of someone else's delayed decisions. Recognizing avoidance is the first step in taking control of your emotional life. It allows you to make choices that align with your value, not with someone else's indecision. Walking away from avoidance is not rejection of love. It is acceptance of your own worth. It is a conscious decision to refuse half measures, to stop settling for empty promises, and to demand the love you deserve. You do not need to wait for someone to change. You need to honor yourself now, because the person who is truly for you will not make you question your importance. They will not hesitate to commit, and they will not leave you wondering if you are enough. Never forget the courage to face commitment, or the lack of it, transforms your life. By refusing to tolerate uncertainty, you send a clear message: your heart is valuable and it will not be wasted. You are not defined by someone else's hesitation, but by your own willingness to demand clarity and respect. When commitment is absent, your peace is absent. When it is present, your confidence grows, your heart relaxes, and your life gains direction. Understanding this difference is crucial because clarity in this area determines how every relationship in your future will feel. Choose clarity, choose respect. Choose a love that aligns with the standards of your heart, not the excuses of another. Emotions are powerful. They connect us to others, guide our decisions, and reveal the depth of our hearts. But when a man uses a woman, he weaponizes emotions against her. Instead of love being a source of comfort and strength, it becomes a tool for control, manipulation, and personal gain. This form of exploitation is subtle, often invisible at first, but its effects run deep. A man who uses emotions does not aim to understand your feelings. He aims to exploit them. He recognizes your compassion, your empathy, and your ability to forgive, and he uses these qualities to bend situations in his favor. He will twist conversations to make you feel guilty, anxious, or responsible for his happiness. The burden of his emotions becomes your burden, and slowly, without you realizing it, your heart carries weight that is not yours to carry. Psychology explains why this is so effective. Human beings are wired to respond to emotional cues. We are programmed to care, to nurture, and to repair. When someone deliberately triggers these responses, we naturally try to solve the problem, even if it is not ours to solve. A man who uses your emotions depends on this pattern. He counts on your instinct to give, fix, and comfort, turning your natural kindness into a source of control. At first, you may forgive his behavior. You may tell yourself that he is stressed, or that he is going through a tough time, or that you should be patient. But patterns repeat. The same emotional manipulations resurface, each time slightly different, each time leaving a mark on your confidence and sense of self. What may have seemed like isolated incidents slowly form a cycle of control, where your emotions are constantly monitored, tested, and manipulated. One common tactic is guilt. He makes you feel responsible for his mood, his decisions, and his actions. He may say things that imply you are the cause of his frustration or disappointment. He may remind you of past mistakes, even small ones, to control your present choices. When guilt becomes a constant companion, it erodes self-esteem. You begin to question your decisions, your feelings, and even your value. Another method is fear. He may threaten emotional withdrawal or subtly imply consequences if you do not comply with his desires. Fear is a powerful motivator because it activates survival instincts. When it is combined with care, attention, or fleeting affection, it creates a cycle of hope and anxiety that keeps you tethered to him. You remain trapped, not because of love, but because your emotions are being leveraged against you. Manipulation can also appear as flattery or charm. Compliments and attention are given strategically to reinforce his control. He may praise you when it benefits him and withdraw it when you question his actions. This creates a dependency on his validation, keeping you emotionally invested while he remains detached from your true needs. The pattern is not random. It is carefully maintained to maximize control and minimize accountability. Emotional usage is exhausting. It drains your mental energy and distorts your sense of reality. You may find yourself apologizing constantly, doubting your instincts, or bending to meet his emotional demands. Over time, the joy and freedom you once felt in the relationship are replaced by anxiety, confusion, and an internal tension that never fully eases. This is not a reflection of weakness. It is a reflection of the imbalance he has created by exploiting your heart. Recognizing this pattern requires honesty. You must observe how you feel after interactions, not just what he says. Do you feel empowered or depleted? Do you feel understood or manipulated? Do you feel safe to express your feelings, or do you fear backlash? Your emotional response is the clearest indicator of whether someone values you or uses you. True connection nurtures emotions. Exploitation drains them. Awareness of emotional manipulation is empowering because it allows you to reclaim control. Once you see that your feelings are being used against you, you can set boundaries. You can refuse to take responsibility for someone else's emotional well-being at the cost of your own. You can demand reciprocity, consistency, and respect rather than accepting cycles of guilt, fear, or dependency. Your emotions are precious. They are not tools for someone else to wield at their convenience. They are the essence of your humanity, your capacity to love, and your ability to connect deeply. Protecting them is not selfish. It is necessary. Every time you allow someone to exploit your feelings, you give away power that should remain with you. Every time you recognize manipulation, you reclaim it. Do not confuse temporary satisfaction with true fulfillment. A man who uses emotions may offer intense affection at moments, creating highs that feel rewarding. But these moments are temporary and calculated. They are designed to distract from patterns of neglect, control, and manipulation. True love, on the other hand, is consistent. It uplifts, supports, and balances. It never requires fear, guilt, or emotional exhaustion to function. It is essential to remember that emotional manipulation does not define your worth. You are not flawed because someone exploits your heart. You are strong because you feel deeply and care willingly. The problem lies not in your capacity to love, but in the person who cannot love responsibly. Understanding this is the key to protecting yourself and choosing relationships that honor your emotional strength. When you learn to identify emotional exploitation, you no longer remain a passive participant. You recognize patterns, you set boundaries, and you refuse to compromise your peace. You understand that love should nurture your heart, not control it. You understand that your feelings are not currency to be spent on someone else's convenience. And in that understanding, you find liberation. Every time a man uses emotions, he underestimates the resilience of a woman who recognizes her own power. Awareness transforms vulnerability into strength. Knowledge of manipulation transforms fear into clarity. And clarity allows you to make choices that protect your heart, cultivate real love, and build relationships that are based on mutual care, respect, and authenticity. Never allow your sensitivity to be mistaken for weakness. Your ability to feel deeply is your gift, not a flaw. Protect it, honor it, and demand that anyone who enters your life treats it with the respect it deserves. Emotional manipulation may be subtle, but your awareness and strength are stronger. Reliability is the backbone of any meaningful relationship. When a man truly cares, he stands beside you in both joy and struggle. But when a man is using a woman, presence becomes selective. He shows up when it benefits him and vanishes when it requires effort, sacrifice, or responsibility. Disappearing in moments that matter is one of the clearest signs that his intentions are not genuine. Psychology teaches that people reveal their priorities through behavior. Actions are not random, they are the reflection of what someone values most. If he disappears when you are vulnerable, it shows where your well-being ranks in his list of priorities. If a man truly values your presence, he will not leave you alone in moments of need. Presence is not just about physical proximity, it is about emotional support, reassurance, and commitment. Disappearing is often disguised as busyness or stress. He may claim he is overwhelmed, preoccupied, or occupied with responsibilities. At first, it may seem understandable, but over time, a pattern emerges. He is consistently absent when you rely on him, yet always present when it suits him. This inconsistency is exhausting because it forces you to navigate challenges alone, often questioning your worth and his care. Many women internalize his absence, blaming themselves for his disappearance. Perhaps I am too needy, or maybe he is under pressure. These thoughts are natural, but they are also dangerous. The truth is that if he cared, he would make room. If he valued you, he would prioritize your emotional needs. Absence during critical moments is not about circumstances, it is about choice. This pattern is particularly damaging because it erodes trust. Trust is built on reliability, consistency, and mutual accountability. When someone disappears repeatedly, the foundation of trust begins to crumble. You start doubting your perception of the relationship, questioning whether your needs are reasonable, and fearing that expressing your feelings will push him further away. This fear of rejection traps you in a cycle of uncertainty and dependence. Disappearing can take subtle forms. He may not answer calls or messages for long periods, avoiding confrontation or accountability. He may cancel plans at the last minute without regard for your expectations. He may emotionally detach, appearing distant even when physically present. These behaviors are not accidental. They are deliberate strategies to maintain control while keeping you invested. Being aware of this pattern is crucial. Awareness allows you to recognize that his absence is not a reflection of your worth, but of his unwillingness to engage with responsibility. Emotional support and presence are not optional in a healthy connection. They are essential. If he fails to provide these consistently, it is a sign that the relationship is imbalanced and that your needs are secondary to his convenience. The psychological impact of disappearing behavior is profound. Constant uncertainty triggers anxiety and hypervigilance. Your mind becomes preoccupied with questions: where is he? Why isn't he here? Did I do something wrong? This mental strain distracts you from your own growth, joy, and peace. Over time, it can even affect your ability to trust others, as the trauma of neglect leaves lingering doubts about being seen and valued. True love manifests through presence, not promises. A man who respects and values you shows up even when it is inconvenient. He stands with you in moments of challenge and celebrates with you in moments of triumph. Absence in critical moments reveals the opposite. It shows a lack of empathy, responsibility, and genuine care. Recognizing this distinction is essential for protecting your emotional health. When you identify this behavior, it is an opportunity to reclaim power. You do not need to chase someone who vanishes when you need them most. You do not need to justify their absence or rationalize their choices. You deserve consistency, support, and care, the fundamental elements of a nurturing relationship. By refusing to tolerate selective presence, you assert the value of your own heart and emotional well-being. It is also important to understand that absence affects more than immediate emotions. It shapes patterns of interaction, expectations, and self-worth. If a man disappears repeatedly, you may start lowering your expectations, fearing that asking for support will push him away. This self-limitation stifles growth, diminishes confidence, and subtly trains your heart to accept neglect. Awareness breaks this cycle, reminding you that presence is a right, not a privilege, in love. Choosing to honor yourself in these situations is a powerful act. When you refuse to invest in someone who cannot stand beside you, you create space for relationships that are reciprocal and nurturing. Presence is not something you should compromise for the sake of attachment. A person who truly loves will never let you navigate struggles alone. Absence is a reflection of priorities, and your priorities should always include your own peace, stability, and growth. Disappearing behavior also teaches a lesson about boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible walls that protect your energy, your time, and your heart. By recognizing patterns of absence, you learn to define what is acceptable in relationships. You learn that support is non-negotiable and that consistent presence is a mark of respect and care. Boundaries empower you to step away from neglect without guilt, fear, or regret. Every time he disappears, remember that it is not a measure of your importance. It is a measure of his inability to show commitment, reliability, and respect. Your heart deserves someone who prioritizes you not out of obligation, but out of choice. Awareness of absence allows you to distinguish between someone who enriches your life and someone who drains it under the guise of love. Ultimately, refusing to accept vanishing behavior is an act of courage. It is a declaration that your emotional needs are valid, that your presence matters, and that you will no longer tolerate treatment that undermines your peace. By acknowledging absence as a warning sign, you protect your heart from long-term pain and open the door to connections that are healthy, supportive, and reciprocal. Presence is the silent proof of care. Absence is the loud signal of indifference. When you understand this distinction, you hold the power to choose wisely, to demand respect, and to walk toward relationships that truly honor your worth. No one who disappears in your moments of need deserves a place in your heart, because love is not about leaving you alone. It is about standing with you through everything. Words are powerful. They can heal, inspire, and connect, but they can also wound, manipulate, and dominate. When a man is using a woman, he often wields words as a tool of control. He does not speak to uplift or nurture. He speaks to influence, to intimidate, and to shape reality according to his convenience. This type of control is subtle, but it slowly erodes confidence, independence, and self-trust. A man who controls through words understands the psychology of influence. He knows that repeated statements, half-truths, and criticism can shape beliefs over time. He may belittle your decisions, dismiss your feelings, or make you feel uncertain about your own judgment. Subtle insults, disguised as jokes, backhanded compliments, or constant questioning of your thoughts create an environment where doubt replaces clarity. Over time, you start relying on his perspective more than your own. Manipulation through language often starts gently. He may insist that your worries are overreactions, that your needs are unreasonable, or that your emotions are too intense. At first, these statements seem small, even ignorable, but repetition embeds them into your subconscious. Your self-esteem begins to shift. You question your instincts, second-guess your choices, and wonder if your perspective is valid. What was once confidence becomes uncertainty. This control is not always overt. He may avoid direct confrontation, but uses implication, silence, or selective praise to influence your behavior. Compliments may be given only when you comply, and criticism surfaces when you express independence. This push and pull creates dependency, conditioning you to seek approval and validation from him rather than trusting your own inner voice. Psychology shows that words have a measurable impact on emotions and perception. A person who consistently undermines your confidence through language triggers stress responses in your brain, activating fear and anxiety. You begin to anticipate judgment or disapproval, altering your behavior to avoid conflict or displeasure. This is a form of emotional control that is invisible to outsiders but deeply felt internally. Many women rationalize this behavior, believing it is their responsibility to correct his attitude or improve communication. They assume that if they are patient, understanding, or more careful, the dynamic will change. But patterns of verbal control rarely shift without accountability. The issue is not a lack of effort on your part, it is the deliberate choice to manipulate your thoughts and emotions on his part. Controlling words often carry subtle threats or guilt. He may imply that your happiness depends on pleasing him, that failure to meet his expectations will lead to disappointment, or that your worth is linked to his satisfaction. This is not love. It is strategic influence designed to maintain power. Emotional manipulation through speech may not leave visible scars, but it erodes inner strength, leaving a sense of insecurity and hesitation in its place. Recognizing this pattern is liberating. Awareness allows you to separate your truth from his narrative. You can observe the difference between honest dialogue and control disguised as conversation. A person who values you communicates openly, respectfully, and without the intention to dominate. Their words encourage growth, validate your feelings, and foster trust. In contrast, controlling words create fear, self-doubt, and dependency. It is important to note that control through language can appear loving at times. He may use compliments, promises, or emotional appeals to keep you engaged while subtly manipulating your choices. This combination of praise and criticism makes detachment difficult as your mind becomes conditioned to seek approval while navigating insecurity. Over time, you internalize the belief that your voice matters less than his, which undermines your autonomy and emotional freedom. Your response to controlling words is a measure of your awareness and strength. You have the power to reject manipulation and reclaim your narrative. By recognizing when speech is intended to control rather than connect, you can set boundaries, assert your perspective, and refuse to internalize harmful statements. You can decide that your opinions, feelings, and decisions are valid, regardless of attempts to undermine them. Boundaries are essential. They signal that respect is non-negotiable and that manipulation will not dictate your life. Enforcing limits on verbal influence is not confrontation, it is self-preservation. When you protect your inner voice from control, you reinforce confidence, clarity, and independence. You demonstrate that your value is not determined by someone else's words, but by your own recognition of worth. True partnership relies on language that nurtures, supports, and empowers. Mutual respect is shown through thoughtful communication, where words are chosen to build understanding rather than control. A relationship rooted in manipulation cannot foster long-term happiness because fear and uncertainty replace trust and security. Recognizing controlling language is a step toward healthier interactions, allowing you to choose connections that honor both your mind and your heart. It is also a lesson in self-respect. When you identify attempts to control through speech, you are not being sensitive, you are being aware. You are protecting your mental space, your confidence, and your emotional well-being. You are acknowledging that love does not diminish you, it strengthens you. And once you internalize this truth, you become less susceptible to subtle tactics designed to manipulate or intimidate. Words can either confine or liberate. In a relationship, they should open doors, not lock them. If he uses language to bend you to his will, it is not love. It is a reflection of his need for control. By noticing this, you reclaim your freedom, affirm your boundaries, and choose a path where dialogue encourages growth rather than fear. Remember, the courage to recognize verbal manipulation transforms vulnerability into power. Awareness empowers you to speak your truth without apology, assert your needs without fear, and protect your heart from being reshaped by someone else's control. Communication should illuminate, not dominate. Respect through words is a sign of integrity. Manipulation is a warning sign. When you refuse to accept control through words, you are choosing clarity, dignity, and self-respect. You are sending a message that your mind and heart are not negotiable. You are creating space for relationships built on mutual understanding, honesty, and empowerment. Controlling words can be hidden, but your awareness and strength are impossible to ignore. Every relationship should feel like a partnership, a connection where both people are proud to share their lives openly. But when a man is using a woman, he often keeps her hidden. He avoids introducing her to friends, family, or important parts of his life. This secrecy is not about privacy or timing, it is about control and a lack of genuine commitment. When you are hidden, it is a clear signal that your presence is valuable only when convenient, not when meaningful. Psychology reveals that people reveal their priorities through visibility. If someone consistently chooses to keep you out of their world, it is not accidental. It is a deliberate choice that reflects their true intentions. A man who truly cares about you will not feel threatened or embarrassed by your presence. He will be proud to show the world that you are important, that your connection matters, and that he is willing to integrate your life with his. Being kept hidden is subtle yet deeply damaging. At first, you may rationalize it, he is private, or he doesn't like mixing personal and social life, or he is just cautious. But patterns reveal truth. If he avoids public acknowledgement repeatedly, refuses to attend events with you, or consistently leaves you out of social interactions, the underlying message is clear. You are not a priority. You exist for convenience, not recognition. This behavior is particularly painful because it undermines your sense of worth. Humans are social beings. We measure belonging, trust, and value through connection with others. Being intentionally excluded from these connections can create feelings of invisibility and unimportance. Over time, these feelings affect self-esteem, making you question whether your presence truly matters to the person you care about. A man who hides you often does so for self-interest. He may want to avoid accountability, maintain control, or exploit the relationship without consequences. By keeping the relationship secret, he ensures that no one can observe his behavior or challenge his actions. He benefits from your commitment while avoiding the responsibilities that come with transparency and mutual respect. Many women attempt to justify being hidden, believing it is temporary or a reflection of circumstances rather than intention. They hope that patience, compromise, or understanding will eventually result in inclusion. However, psychology shows that patterns of exclusion are not usually accidental. They are consistent behaviors that reveal priorities. Waiting for change in such circumstances often leads to prolonged feelings of frustration, neglect, and invisibility. Recognizing this pattern is crucial. Awareness allows you to separate excuses from reality. A relationship should make you feel valued, seen, and proud. If the dynamic consistently keeps you in the shadows, it is not nurturing your growth, it is limiting it. You deserve visibility, affirmation, and acknowledgement. Your life and presence should be celebrated, not hidden. Secrecy also affects trust. If a man keeps you hidden, it communicates that he is willing to manipulate perception for his benefit. This lack of transparency erodes confidence in the relationship. You begin to doubt whether he will act in your best interest or whether he is simply protecting himself. Trust cannot thrive in an environment where one person is intentionally invisible. The psychological cost of being hidden is significant. It reinforces self-doubt, creates anxiety about the relationship, and diminishes emotional security. You may feel unsure about your place in his life, question your importance, or feel compelled to overcompensate for the lack of recognition. Over time, this can impact your ability to trust not only him, but also future partners. Being hidden teaches the heart to accept undervaluation, which becomes a cycle unless awareness interrupts it. Empowerment comes from recognition. Once you see that being hidden is a deliberate pattern, you gain the clarity to make informed choices. You can decide that your presence deserves visibility and that you will not tolerate being treated as a secret. Protecting your emotional and social presence is a form of self-respect. You honor yourself by refusing to exist in someone else's life only when convenient. Being visible in a relationship is not about showing off, it is about mutual respect and equality. Transparency signals that both partners are valued and invested. A man who appreciates you will not fear your presence in his world. He will include you in his life because your connection is important and your role matters. Inclusion is proof of care, not obligation. Choosing not to remain hidden is a courageous act. It requires honesty, boundaries, and the willingness to walk away from relationships that obscure your value. It is not a rejection of love. It is an affirmation of self-worth. You are prioritizing your dignity, clarity, and peace, understanding that love should empower rather than diminish. Being hidden is a form of control that undermines independence. Refusing to accept it restores agency. You reclaim your social, emotional, and psychological space. You establish that your presence cannot be minimized, ignored, or hidden. This awareness protects not only your current well-being, but also your future relationships, ensuring that your connection with someone is based on respect, transparency, and mutual commitment. Remember, being visible is a fundamental human need. Love that keeps you in the shadows is not love. It is a reflection of self-interest, manipulation, and neglect. True partnership celebrates your life, values your presence, and integrates your world with care. When you demand visibility, you are demanding acknowledgement of your worth, respect for your presence, and alignment with someone who honors you genuinely. Awareness of being hidden allows you to draw boundaries with clarity. You do not need to fight for inclusion. If it is withheld consistently, it is a signal that the relationship is imbalanced. Standing firm in this truth empowers you to choose connection that is mutual, affirming, and transparent. You assert that love is not a secret, it is a celebration. Every step toward visibility is a step toward self-respect. By recognizing that hiding is a sign of using behavior, you protect your heart, your energy, and your dignity. Inclusion is not negotiable, it is proof of value. Once this understanding takes root, you are no longer willing to compromise your worth for secrecy. You seek and deserve relationships that honor you fully, openly, and without hesitation. Beyond the obvious signs of being used, taking without giving, avoiding commitment, manipulating emotions, disappearing in times of need, controlling through words, and keeping you hidden, There are deeper, subtler patterns that reveal true intentions. These patterns are harder to see, but once recognized, they provide clarity that is impossible to ignore. They show how a man truly views you, not as a partner, but as a convenience. One such pattern is inconsistency. A man who is using you often acts unpredictably. He may shower attention one day and vanish the next. He may speak of love and loyalty, yet his actions contradict every word. This unpredictability is not a sign of mystery or excitement. It is a mechanism to keep you emotionally unbalanced. Psychology explains that humans crave consistency because it provides security. Inconsistency triggers anxiety, making you cling to fleeting moments of affection in hopes of stability that never comes. When patterns of inconsistency dominate, the relationship becomes a cycle of hope and disappointment, leaving you drained yet compelled to stay. Another deeper pattern is a lack of accountability. A man who uses you rarely admits mistakes or takes responsibility for his actions. Instead, he shifts blame, justifies behavior, or minimizes harm. This avoidance of responsibility prevents growth in the relationship and reinforces the idea that your feelings are negotiable. When someone refuses to acknowledge the impact of their actions on your life, it signals that your needs and experiences are secondary to their convenience. Accountability is the foundation of trust, and when it is absent, the relationship is fundamentally unbalanced. The third profound pattern is exploitation of your strengths, talents, or resources. A man who is using a woman often benefits from her abilities, support, or energy without reciprocal investment. He may rely on your emotional intelligence to solve his problems, your social connections to elevate his status, or your financial or practical contributions without offering the same in return. This exploitation is subtle, often masked as partnership or collaboration, but the imbalance becomes evident over time. When one person consistently benefits while the other sacrifices, it is no longer mutual support. It is a transaction disguised as love. Recognizing these patterns requires reflection and honesty. Observe the alignment between words and actions, promises and reality, support and reciprocity. A relationship that lacks accountability, consistency, or balance is not a temporary challenge. It is a reflection of priorities. You deserve clarity, not confusion. You deserve a partner who invests as much as they receive, who nurtures as much as they rely, and who stands beside you in equal measure. These deeper patterns also impact your sense of self. Inconsistency creates doubt, lack of accountability creates insecurity, and exploitation fosters resentment. Over time, you may find yourself questioning your instincts, minimizing your needs, or excusing behavior that diminishes your self-worth. Psychology confirms that repeated exposure to these dynamics rewires perception, teaching the mind to tolerate neglect and manipulation. Awareness interrupts this process, allowing you to reclaim clarity, self-respect, and emotional autonomy. A key insight is that these patterns rarely exist in isolation. They often reinforce one another. Inconsistency paired with emotional manipulation makes it difficult to identify truth. Lack of accountability combined with hidden behavior ensures that you remain uncertain about your place in his life. Exploitation without recognition erodes confidence and fosters dependency. These interwoven patterns create a web that keeps you invested long after it stops being healthy. Awareness untangles this web and reveals the full picture of reality. Another important observation is that these behaviors are intentional. They are not accidents or misunderstandings. They are consistent choices that reflect true character. A man who is willing to exploit, avoid responsibility, and remain unpredictable is demonstrating a lack of respect for you and your boundaries. Recognizing intention is crucial because it shifts the focus from hoping for change to making empowered decisions. Understanding that patterns are deliberate removes doubt and clarifies that your feelings and efforts should not be sacrificed for someone else's convenience. Awareness of these deeper patterns allows for a decisive response. You can choose boundaries, prioritize self-respect, and seek relationships that honor your value. You are not powerless simply because the behaviors are subtle. Subtlety does not make them harmless. On the contrary, the slow accumulation of these actions can be more damaging than overt hostility, as it undermines confidence and creates cycles of self-doubt. Recognizing these patterns restores control. Self-respect becomes the guiding principle when deeper patterns are visible. You do not need to tolerate behavior that erodes your confidence or manipulates your energy. You do not need to rationalize inconsistency, justify lack of accountability or excuse exploitation. By holding firm to your worth, you establish a standard that any genuine partner will meet naturally. Those unwilling to meet it reveal themselves through these deeper patterns. Finally, these patterns teach a vital lesson. Love should be enriching, not depleting. A healthy connection builds your life, strengthens your spirit, and inspires growth. A relationship dominated by inconsistency, avoidance of responsibility, and exploitation does the opposite. It drains energy, fosters insecurity, and undermines identity. Recognizing the deeper signs of being used empowers you to step away from what diminishes you and toward what elevates you. Your heart is not meant to be a resource to be manipulated.